Hello everyone, this is me, Yuliani. Here in my video, I want to talk about presupposition. In both semantics and pragmatics, presupposition does exist. This video is going to be a bit different from others, which also talk about the same topic. Here, I'm going to explain presupposition in a much simpler way. Well, at least in my opinion, much simpler. Before we start our journey in presupposition, there are main points to discuss in this topic. They are the definition, the characteristics, types, and why presupposition is important. Let's begin. First, what do we know about presupposition? Basically, presupposition is an assumption generated by a speaker prior to making an utterance. Presupposition is also a meaning considered given without being stated in an utterance. And presupposition is also presumed to be shared beliefs that are taken for granted by the speaker or writer and are expected to be used for interpreting the message. Usually, presupposition is symbolized as presupposes. An example of presupposition is when someone utters, "Mary has a brother." In the utterance, "Mary has a brother," there are several assumptions which were made before making such utterance. The assumptions are, first, there's a person named Mary, and second, the speaker assumed that the hearer knew which Mary the speaker talked about. Therefore, the presupposition from the utterance "Mary has a brother" can be written like this. Mary has a brother presupposes that there's a person named Mary, and Mary has a brother presupposes that the speaker assumed that the hearer knew which Mary the speaker talked about. Still confused, aren't we? Put it this way, if you want to say something, you must have an assumption or a guess about the thing you're going to say. For instance, you want to say to your friend, "Let's go to the canteen and buy something to eat." What do you have in mind when you say that? You must think that your friend is also hungry and wants to buy food as well. Now take this another example. When you ask me, your lecturer, "What time are you coming to class, ma'am?" You must have assumed that I am going to class, since the time you ask me the question is actually my schedule to teach your class. You will not ask me such question when it's not my schedule, will you? But what happens when I'm not going to class even though it's my schedule? Basically, that's just me being lazy to teach. Well, just kidding. It actually belongs to characteristics of presupposition. One of the characteristics of presupposition is that it remains the same under negation. Negation, or negative form of something, won't change what you have assumed before making a question whether I'm coming to class or not. Even though in reality I am not coming to class despite my schedule, you still assumed I will come to class because it is supposed to be my schedule. Another presupposition characteristic is that presupposition can be cancelled when it's inconsistent with background assumption or real-world knowledge. For example, your question, "What time I am coming to class?" Your presupposition that I will teach you will not be valid because today is holiday and you just forget about that. That's the real-world knowledge. Then, presupposition is cancelable if it's inconsistent with conversational implicatures. For instance, if I answer your question, "What time are you coming to class, ma'am?" with the answer, "I'm having a meeting right now. I'll inform you later," then it can mean I'm coming or I'm not coming. Hence, the presupposition whether I will come is questionable or cancelable. Lastly, presupposition is cancelable when it's inconsistent with certain discourse context. For example, your presupposition that I will teach will evaporate or will be gone when apparently your friend reminds you that I already informed students I wouldn't come to class today, but you didn't get the information. Wow, That was a long explanation. I do hope it enlightened you about the characteristics of presupposition. Now let's continue to types of presupposition. Presupposition has 6 types. First, existential presupposition, denoted by an existence of something or someone. For example, Mary has a brother, which presupposes that there exists a person named Mary and that she has a brother. Second, factive presupposition, from the word fact, denoted by factual verbs such as know and realize, like in I know it's expensive, which presupposes that it is expensive. Then the third type, non-factive presupposition, denoted by non-factual verbs such as imagine or dream. It's different from factive presupposition. For instance, the utterance I imagine I were in Europe presupposes that the person is not in Europe. Then there's the fourth type, counterfactual presupposition. What is presupposed is not only untrue but also contrary to facts and is typically realized by conditionals. For example, I wish I were married can presuppose that the person is not married or the person doesn't want to get married. The fifth type is lexical presupposition, realized by implicative verbs such as manage and forget, change of state verbs such as stop, begin, finish, start, leave, enter, etc., and repetitive words again, anymore, restore, etc. The utterance you're late again presupposes that the person was late before. And the last type is structural presupposition, typically realized by WH questions like when are you coming to class, which presupposes that the person in question will come to class. Oh my god, that was confusing. And you must think why you need to know all of this. What if it happens in real interactions? Basically, you don't have to memorize all the characteristics and the types. You just have to raise your awareness that there are always pre-assumptions or considerations you make before you make an utterance. Presupposition is a shared background assumption that both speaker and hearer know but take for granted. Frankly, presupposition does not have to be mentioned when you make an utterance in communication, but both communicators already know. It's like true love. You don't have to say it, but you know it's there between you two. Oh no! Presupposition plays a role in making your communication brief and understandable. It also helps you avoid misunderstandings. Let me give you an illustration. When you ask one of your friends, "What time are you coming to Miss Yuli's class?" you must have assumed that your friend knows that it is my class schedule, and you also know your friend will come to my class. When presupposition doesn't exist, imagine you said, "It is Miss Yuli's class schedule, and I know you will come to her class. What time are you coming to her class?" That's long, huh? With presupposition, you and your friend both have the same shared background assumption, so your question is brief. It's all about regularity, the shared background knowledge. In conclusion, presupposition is there to help communications become brief because both communicators already know the unsaid assumptions. And to make conversations brief, we also need to know cooperative principles. Stay tuned for my next video then. Hope it helps. See ya!